All right, so welcome everybody to this is, I guess, the third session on AI from CAHRS. So hopefully you've seen many of the prior presentations and you've had the chance to enjoy my colleagues JR and John talk about aspects of AI and how it's, at least they see it affecting parts of the HR function that they're most familiar with. Uh, Today, I'm going to pick up from there and talk about this topic of AI in the context of employee experience. I think some of that probably, at least parts of the employee experience, is something that both John and JR covered in the prior weeks. But just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page in terms of this. One of the things I will share is that there's multiple ways for you all to engage. So if along the way you've got questions, multiple different ways you can submit those. So at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button. You can type some questions into there. As soon as I'm done presenting the planned content, I will take a look at those. You can also interact with each other. So at the bottom of your screen, again, is the chat function. So you can type in questions to each other, respond to each other's questions, and so on. So always makes it more engaging when you're multitasking. At least that's what my teenager tells me. So when I took on this topic for this session, I thought, oh, this would be really tons of fun to talk about how AI is impacting the employee experience. As I started to think more about that in the context of 30 minutes, I realized just how daunting maybe that task was. And so I just want to talk a little bit about this idea of what is the employee experience. And I think in many of your organizations, you think about the employee experience really being from the start of the relationship with a potential employee in the recruitment phase of attracting talent to the company, all the way till their last day with us, whether that's through retirement, them moving on to another opportunity, another organization, maybe taking a job with a subsidiary, whatever that might be. We can think about the employee experience as kind of that life cycle of an employee. I think when we look at it that way, though, from HR, it makes it really hard for us to think about where to intervene, what aspects of the employee experience are most important. And so in the last few years, as I've been thinking about the employee experience, I've really started to think about it in a different way. And the framework I have really starts with thinking about there's pieces of what we do as a function. There's things that we do as an organization that I would consider to be episodic touch points of the employee experience. So these are things that someone may only do once. They may only do them a few times in the time that they are with us as an organization. And so they're definitely not things that they do every day. And so we can think about this as signing up for benefits, looking at retirement, having a child and needing to change the tax form, whatever it might be. Those are not things that we do every day, but they're super important to how employees feel in terms of, do they feel that the company is really taking care of me, cares about me, is making my life easier as an employee. And so we definitely want to think about how AI can affect and impact those episodic touch points so that when they happen, they're seamless and really create a great experience. The second part of the employee experience that I think is potentially more important, though, when we think about what keeps people coming back, what makes employees engaged, is what I think about our reflection touch points. They're things that are constantly happening, but employees don't think about every day. And so it may be every few months, certainly multiple times a year. Employees often are sitting back and reflecting on, am I making good progress here? Do I feel like my career is moving in a positive direction? Do I feel like I've got good support from my leader? Do I see long-term opportunities for growth? Do I feel like I'm learning new things? Do I feel like I'm developing as an employee? And again, maybe it's me, but I don't think most people think about that stuff every day. I don't think it's possible to wake up every day and reflect back on what are the 6 things I learned yesterday? Or do I feel like yesterday was really, a great indicator of where my career is going? I think those things happen more infrequently and probably at major points across the year. It could be, I certainly think about this every time I turn a year older. I might think about this around the holidays. I might think about this if I'm stuck in traffic. I might start to walk back through the year and think about how things have been going and how does that look. So we can certainly talk about how HR can really impact employees on those reflection touch points. And then to me, maybe the things that people are most concerned about are those things that are day-to-day touch points. When I really think about what drives turnover, what makes people start looking for a new job, what keeps people really engaged, are those aspects about the HR function, HR practices, their job that impact them every day. How frustrating is my job? How difficult is it to get my work done? Do I have the right tools? Do I have the right information? Who are my colleagues that I'm working around and how are they impacting my life? How frustrating is it to get into the building? All those things that every day, those little frustrations add up pretty quickly to disengaging people and getting them to start looking for opportunities elsewhere. So we can certainly, again, think about where would AI and chatbots and technology really impact these day-to-day touch points for people. If I think about then the practical implications for AI in these spaces, certainly in the episodic touch points is probably where most of your companies have already made some pretty good headway or pretty good progress in terms of thinking about where would AI, where would chatbots, where would technology really have dramatic impact on the employee experience. And part of that is because I think in this space, there's often defined answers, defined processes where technology can often do that better than humans, can do it more repeatedly than humans, and can do it 24/7, where honestly, we often don't have the people support to do that. And great examples here, right? So companies who have automated and created automated chatbots and using AI to help employees get the information they need when they need it. So again, classic example, we just had a first child. What's the benefits that are associated with that? I might start to then think about what are the things I might have to change in terms of tax forms and declarations on my tax forms, withholdings, all that kind of stuff. So one way we can think about this is just having the chatbots that have the defined information, pushing that to employees when they need it, make it easy for them to quickly type in a question. The AI can figure out what that question is, what's the right source of information, and direct that person right to a chatbot or to some easily watchable video or something that tells them exactly what they have to do, how do they do it. I think the next level of that, though, is really giving them personalized recommendations. So again, just take the having your first child example. There's lots of implications for this. So first thing is just helping them understand what are the benefits for healthcare at the hospital, what are the benefits associated with the first week, but then pushing more information around what are the benefits available in terms of, do we have daycare or childcare reimbursements? Do we have access for them to think about initial planning for savings for college? Like, what are all the accumulated benefits that aren't immediately going to be used by that person, but we can start pushing information to them? And again, chatbots and AI can do a great job of really providing and push information in a very personalized way, just as if we were shopping online and getting recommendations on other things that we should be thinking about. So those episodic touch points, again, to me, we can eliminate the pain of waiting for information, eliminating the pain of having to talk to 5 different people to finally get to the person who knows what I need, by really codifying that information, making it easy to search, making the chatbot provide it in a very straightforward way at any point of the day, any day of the week, to then eventually ramping that up to give them personalized recommendations on the array of benefits, the array of different activities that they could take advantage of, given this life stage change that they may have just gone through. The second area I then think about is the reflection touch points. And again, when we start to think about what are those things that people reflect on over the course of a year, course of 6 months, is typically things related to how's my career going? Do I feel like I'm moving in a positive direction? Do I feel like I'm getting the support from the company I need? Am I learning new things that are going to help me achieve that next job? And I think we're already again starting to see some great examples of where AI can play a role that augments the information they might get from their manager, augments the information they might get from their HR business partner. And we've seen a number of companies start to move towards things like having a virtual career assistant. And so that virtual tool, AI-driven tool, really can provide information to that employee on here are jobs that are open that are related to what you do. Here's career path information on what's the series of jobs, what are the series of experiences it might take to get you to this ambition that you have in terms of higher level inside the organization. It might do that both in terms of career paths, it might do that in terms of short-term experiences, it might tap into a learning advisor that could give you a sense of here's the kinds of courses that are available on the company's intranet. Here are courses that we have purchased from external learning places, and really tying that all together to give employees advice, direction in terms of career paths, career opportunities, learning that goes with that. I think the other place we're seeing this is not on the direct employee experience, but in terms of coaching leaders. And so we're using AI to help give coaching prompts to leaders. So at different points in the year, is it helping leaders to think through what are the conversations I should be having with employees at this time of the year about their career? What are conversations that I could be having with them about current performance? What are conversations I could be having with them about learning opportunities? So the AI could directly do this for employees, but I think we've seen other companies move in the direction of using the AI to help leaders become better leaders and help those leaders become coaches. So really giving them prompts around, hey, look, your employee is now at 18 months in this role. Have you had a conversation around what's next for them? Have you had a conversation around these potential opportunities that are currently open? Have you talked to them about these new learning platforms that are open for them that would help them achieve their objectives? So that the AI can really be targeting two different groups, targeting the employee, giving them direct information, but also targeting their leader so that those leaders are having these conversations. So again, really great ways to think about all the knowledge and information inside the organization that can be mined by AI that creates solutions, either directly or indirectly, for improving the employee experience. The last part of this then is really around the day-to-day touch points and really thinking through, how can AI really help to reduce some of the day-to-day frustrations that people are feeling that could actually make them feel that their jobs are better, make them feel like what they're doing is easier to accomplish and not such a challenge. And again, this may run the route of simple things that people find frustrating, like how do I book a conference room for a team meeting? How do I book this room to get some individual alone time away from the bullpen, whatever it might be? So are there ways to automate, make easier people's ability to schedule meetings with each other, schedule meetings in particular locations? I think that's a technology that many of you have already adopted, made it easier for people to find space to get the work done. I think what we're increasingly seeing is using AI to do things like helping people build their knowledge or career networks, right? So really helping them think about, hey, here's the current project you're working on. Who else in the company is working on something similar? Who else has done these projects before? And really helping them to understand and having the AI push to them best practices for these kinds of projects, collaboration recommendations, and in terms of, have you reached out to Brad? Have you reached out to Diane? Have you reached out to Susan? Really giving them recommendations on other experts in this area that they should connect to that might make their job go faster, help connect them with the knowledge they need more consistently. I think, again, this is a great place for the coaching AI framework to come into place to have leaders get prompts through AI. So that the AI recognizing that they've got team members on a particular kind of project, maybe that team's in the initial forming stages. Is it pushing coaching questions? Is it pushing coaching information to that leader to help them think through how to help their team navigate through that initial forming, norming stage of the team project? If the team's in the process of moving off some team members and onboarding new ones, does it provide that coach and that manager another set of coaching prompts that really helps them think about how do you integrate new team members into an existing team? How do you transition work to new employees inside of a team, right? So again, we can think about the AI being a great source to directly impact the experience that employees are having that are the frustrating day-to-day occurrences that make their life hard. We can also think about the AI being a great way to help leaders become better coaches, better advisors to the teams that they support. If I then go from here's what AI can do to really impact the employee experience, it tells me a little bit, I think, about where we as HR leaders have the potential to really think about AI and leveraging technology to improve the employee experience. And the first part of that maybe harkens back to some of what you may have heard from John about analytics is I think AI is going to be a huge resource for us in order for us to be able to collect and analyze new types of data. And so we know a lot about this space of the employee experience is pretty messy. And so just trying to collect this through codifiable surveys or that other kinds of existing data often really doesn't get to the deeper picture of where employees are frustrated, where their experience isn't as positive as they'd want. And so much of the data that we really need here is qualitative data. So it'd be more in the form of interviews, focus groups, and there's lots of different ways that we can collect that. But often for us in the past, that's meant data that we don't know what to do with. And so the newest levels of artificial intelligence really are great for helping to sift through and sort through that kind of qualitative data. So does it open up whole new venues for us to take large amounts of qualitative data, search for patterns in that data, but also search for patterns are there are different persona groups that experience this problem differently. And so really thinking through then, how might we open up new avenues to collect data? Can this help us sort through online chat boards? Can this help us sort through email in an anonymous way and just get a sense of where people are experiencing challenges or frustrations in their job? Are there ways to do this by doing the focus groups, but having that AI in the room with us that's really capturing all the things that are being said in a better and more easily analyzable way? So really thinking through how might we use technology to better capture the voice of employees, to really parse that data more clearly into different persona groups. A lot of that's really hard if we're talking about big volumes of employees and doing that all by hand and doing that all by our own human sorting. A lot of that work can get done much easier through the advances we've seen in terms of AI and AI-driven tools. I think the second part where this can really help us as HR is really aligning that to then drive solutions to HR business partners, to HR specialists who can have more tailored recommendations to managers, more tailored recommendations to individual employees. So are we gathering insights from that are helping us to drive better advice, better solutions at the ground level that we can really think about how this might play out differently in Austin versus London versus Dubai versus Sao Paulo? And so by having that AI help us sort through how the experiences are different, how the challenges are different, what are best practice solutions we've seen from around the world to address this, does this help us actually provide better advice, better solutions? And then finally, I think this ability to use AI to automate a lot of these processes. So instead of us physically taking notes, only capturing half of what's said because I can't write or type fast enough, AI can do that much better, right? So capture every word, capture every sentence, and then really then again parse through that in an automated way to give us a better sense of the full data that's out there. And then finally, as I started to think about like, these are all good things, but what are the challenges, and what are the challenges we've frequently heard the most about? And I think we still see, particularly across generations, across job types, we see a lot of personal differences in people's comfort with technology, their comfort interacting with technology. And so there's different uptake in the use of these things from our employees. So we really have to think through behind this, what's the change management to get our employees more comfortable using chatbots, get them more comfortable using AI and taking advice from AI versus a human. I think early on, as we start to put in AI into HR processes, into HR delivery, we know there's often some early challenges with lack of data accuracy. Initially, the utility of these chatbots and advisors is pretty low because it takes a while for that system to learn all the different nuances of questions that people have to ask. So we have to ask for patience up front that these things aren't going to be the panacea immediately. It's going to take a while for that AI to build the intelligence to offer more complex and complete solutions. So again, as part of the change management, how do we help our employees, our frontline managers, our HR business partners out in the field understand that this is going to be a build, that the initial usage of this, the initial applications might be pretty limited. As we get more data, as those systems get smarter, it's going to eventually get better and better. So it's really a change management kind of expectation setting early on, and then encouraging more and more use so that the system's data intelligence can build. I think the second big challenge of this is, even as we, again, think about the employee experience, if we think about the employee experience, it's huge, right? It's every aspect of HR. It's also how people experience IT, how the employees experience their colleagues, how employees experience their leader. And so one of the biggest challenges I think we have is we start to automate some parts of this, and people can immediately get the right answer when they need it about their pay, or they can get immediately the right answer that they need about a particular benefit or a particular job opportunity. Often then that then leads to a human interaction, and that might or might not be as positive as the AI or chatbot interaction. And oftentimes people start with one and then have to repeat themselves as they move to the next phase of this particular employee experience. So we really have to think through not just one-off solutions, but really making choices here in terms of which aspects, which processes have the most value right away. How do we make sure there's a smooth transition from chatbot to human, human back to chatbot, chatbot to chatbot, one phase of the employee experience, onboarding, that may have given them a bunch of information when they needed it, to then the next stage, which is performing in their job, which may not have as many automatable parts of information. So really my call out here is to think, I love the idea of experimenting. I love the idea of trying new things. But if we just experiment with no big plan, we're also going to create a lot of frustration. So I would argue that at some point we should be thinking about the architecture of the HR system, the architecture of the employee experience, and really thinking about how do we start to seamlessly add in AI, add in chatbots, but where it then doesn't create a level of expectation that's going to fail at the next stage of their experience. So really thinking through, how do we introduce this in ways that is going to be smooth, repeatable, make things better without creating frustrations by unevenness of experience. And then I think the last part of this is really engaging the full HR function to work on this together. And this will help because, again, I think it'll address this challenge of having a bigger architecture. Is thinking about how do we integrate across silos? How do we think about the choice or action in one silo, let's say pay, might impact other silos, and how do we make sure that that data is connected, recommendations across those silos become connected. We certainly need our HR expertise to help train the AI, to give it the right data, the right information, really then thinking about the higher level opportunities that are then possible for HR people. But again, one of the challenges I think here is we start to automate a lot of the entry level HR roles. We still have to think about how we get people ready for bigger roles later on inside the organization. So HR automation and I think, are a great combination. But we also have to realize that that could impact how we train and develop our next generation of HR leaders. So let me stop there, kind of running out of time, but at least a few questions here I'll try and get to. So Haley asked how companies are using AI for these touch points, accounting and ensuring that machines are answering at the cultural norms or unspoken rules. Because again, this is where I think we have to make sure our HR leaders are helping to program, create the right data for these systems to draw off on, because some of these HR solutions are often nuanced, particularly if we get outside the realm of maybe something very non-nuanced, like can you sign up for benefits or not? Much of what we do in HR has not a single best answer, but multiple best answers. So I think that's about training those chatbots and systems over time, but a lot of that coming from the deep expertise of that we have trapped inside our HR leaders and our own head. So again, really, the more we're involved early in these processes, the more we're helping to train the AI and the chatbots with our knowledge. I think that's going to escalate this in terms of speed and accuracy. I think a lot of this is, again, starting small on the things where they are really automatable. But I've seen great progress that companies have made on some pretty complicated things like career pathing advice from chatbots and AI in terms of what are the next kinds of training you should take. But it's around things that are clearly mappable. And that mapping, again, comes from probably the deep expertise that already exists inside the company. And again, that could be prior leaders who've gone through these paths, HR insights on these paths, and so on. But again, this is where I think thinking about the larger architecture before we jump too fast into any one of them makes a lot of sense to me. To see if any other questions, thoughts from the group. Okay, let me just pull this back up again. So leave you with a little bit more information. So on June 5th, same time, Brad Bell is going to talk about the impact of AI and chatbots in the space of performance management. So that's the fourth of the four sessions. If you have questions, if you have other thoughts, please always feel free to reach out to us through the CAHRS website. There's more information around AI. There's certainly a lot more information around the different aspects of the function in terms of best practices and learnings on each of those. And it's also a great place for you guys to send questions or thoughts for upcoming sessions that you would find helpful. So with that, thanks for taking half an hour out of your day to be with us today. I hope you found this useful, and I hope to see many or some of you in person at a future upcoming session.